Humans have been brought through to become intellectually clever enough to build their own prison, but not wise enough to see that's what they're doing.
The thing is for us as individuals to understand that if we are just going ahead and doing what we're being told to do, then you are essentially consenting to having your rights erode away.
What's happening, and what's been happening all this time, is that this force has been manipulating events to infuse the target population.
They're not allowing us to have the truth of facts. But the thing is that you have to remember that if you don't stand up, if you allow them to proceed forward, if you comply, then you have consented. And that's exactly what they're relying on. Some people say, well, we didn't create it. We did actually create it. We created it due to apathy on our part and allowing these erosions of rights slowly to continue to the point that they then just had this false narrative and under pretense of public safety created this horrendous and absurd issue. So what you have to remember is that sometimes people are doing some of these things out of necessity. It doesn't mean that they believe in it. And remember that by complying, you're consenting, and you should do everything in your power not to consent. At least make some reasonable effort at making your opinion known, making your feelings known, because there will be other people around you that see it, that feel the same way. There are millions and millions and millions of people that feel this way. And there's maybe a few hundred to a few thousand people that are in those positions try to force people to go a certain way. So why are we letting individuals push us to these types of decisions? Why are we allowing that to happen? And the bottom line is because we are apathetic. We are not doing what we need to do. We're not enforcing our own God-given rights, and we're allowing those things to erode. We're allowing people to take advantage of us. And you know what? When you start looking at it from that perspective, then we as a global society are getting exactly what we deserve because we're allowing this to happen. And there are pockets of people that are refusing, and God bless those people. And I personally think that the tide has already changed, because now I would say 75% of the world understands the truth. And there's still 25% of the people that are so far gone, and they've drank the Kool-Aid so far, and they'll always continue to drink the Kool-Aid. They're just that type of people. They listen to the CNNs, they listen to the lies, they buy into all the rhetoric and propaganda and misinformation campaigns, and you're not going to change that, right? But the vast majority of people already know the truth. So just stand up and be a beacon of light for those other like-minded souls, and reinforce your thought process and their actions by continuing to be that beacon of light, right? And you'll be surprised how many people around you will feel the same exact way. Just do your best to stand up for yourself, for your family, taking a stand so that it's quite evident to the rest of the world, at least the people around you, that this is not something that you agree with, and this is not something that you are just going along with, that you're not going to just simply comply and then give implied consent, but you're going to stand up and at least resist to some level to make your viewpoint known. You'll be surprised how many people are in your corner. Each one of these things is taking away more and more of our rights. This is how you cook a frog. You don't take a frog and throw it in hot water, because the frog's going to jump right out. You put the frog in regular water, frog's basking, it's just in regular water, you put the water on the stove, and slowly that water gets hotter and hotter, and the frog doesn't even realize it until he's cooked. And that's exactly what they're doing to us. They're slowly cooking us. So we got to make sure that we wake up and we recognize what's happening, so that we can eventually be able to take a stand for our future generations, for our children. Because if we don't do this, we won't be able to do anything for them, for our next generations.
Humans have been brought through to become intellectually clever enough to build their own prison, but not wise enough to see that's what they're doing. And so you have this worship of the intellect, and it's the intellect that's able to produce all this technology, which is then designed to enslave us, without realizing that's what they're doing. They're not waiting for some geek in a garage to invent the next stage of the technological control system. It's all there. It has been there for a long, long time, waiting to play out. And so what they needed was cover stories to get this stuff out of the secret bases and into the public arena without people asking the question, where the hell has this come from? But actually, it's all being coordinated towards an end of human control by technology and AI. Because if you're being manipulated and you don't know you're being manipulated, then you're going to go on being manipulated because you don't know you're being manipulated. Once you have the knowledge of the fact that you are and how you are, now that's empowering to make sure it stops. But when someone says, you know, so-and-so is manipulating you and this is how they're doing it, now you've got the power to stop it. This whole manipulation of humanity is multi-leveled. Yes, it plays out in the 5 sense world as what's happening now, but actually that is a manifestation of consciousness. It's a tussle between states of consciousness. And so it's the consciousness which drives perception that's going to turn this around, because human society is human behavior, and human behavior comes from perception, and perception comes from information received. This is why they want to control the information, so they control perception, because there's not enough of them to impose it. They want to be able to do that through AI, and that's the plan. But at the moment, they can't impose it because there's not enough of them. They have to get us to behave and perceive, therefore behave, in ways where we just act the way that suits them. So that's where it has to change. But when you think that human society is human perception made manifest, we change our perception, we change our behavior, it's over. There's 7.7 billion people being manipulated. People in full knowledge who are doing it are absolutely tiny. Everything's a frequency, and everything, whether it's an emotion or a thought or a state of being, it's a frequency. It vibrates to a certain frequency. Now, when you are out of this world in a state of consciousness, just no form consciousness, which is the core of what we are, then your frequency is operating in certain realms that relate to that frequency. If you tune to a radio station, then you don't hear the other radio stations. You hear the one you tune to because the frequency is compatible. And so your state of being can put you in different realities, if you like, by the fact that you are vibrating to different frequencies, so you connect with different realities. But what a human life does through this form I call the biological computer is it focuses that consciousness, no matter what frequency it's perceiving on. It allows the interaction in one reality between states of consciousness of vastly different frequencies, because what the common theme is the body, which is operating within the frequency band of this reality, which is only a tiny frequency band, of course. And therefore, you can have this interaction in this situation between consciousness of vastly different states, perceptions, etc., which makes it a very, very interesting place. Therefore, we've got this potential to have a very malevolent state of consciousness seeking to impose itself upon the human race. But it's still fascinating, it's still very interesting, and it's an experience within the totality of eternal experience. And when you come from that perspective, you work your socks off, I do for sure, to make a difference, because you don't want this situation to be imposed upon people, but you don't have that same intimidation, fear and intensity, because you know it's just an experience. They don't want love to be prevalent in humans. They don't want joy. They don't want happiness. They have to put us in these constant states of fear, anxiety, depression, anger, hatred. These are all frequencies that they operate on. In the end, it's consciousness. Which consciousness prevails? And they've manipulated us into this fractional potential of consciousness that we are. Where we self-identify with all these labels and self-identify with being powerless. That's the whole idea.